Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. A little step away from the relentless transfer window madness that's going on right now, probably for both clubs, although admittedly I haven't kept tabs on Ipswich. I just know that maybe Amari Hutchinson may be leaving, but that's about it. That's all I've got, so we can find out from Ben. But we've got everyone's favourite EFL content creator within this channel space anyway. There's a lot of love in the comments early doors, a lot of excitement to see Benjamin back on the channel. I wanted to speak to someone who'd spent time in the Premier League more recently than us to give us an idea on what's changed and obviously what went well, what didn't go well, what can Leeds do differently to Ipswich that could potentially mean that we can, stay in the division. I think the last club to do it were actually Nottingham Forest, I think. Since then, it's just been boom, 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 down. Look, Joe, you have the go on the greatest of all time, Ben. They love you. There is a lot of love for you in this chat, and I know you equally like Leeds fans for that matter as well.
Oh, we love the Leeds fans. We'll try and be nice and optimistic about the Premier League, but it's getting a lot harder, isn't it, Joe?
It is, and I noticed the last two seasons in the Championship, and although I do think it's going to be a much more difficult league this year, but we had sort of like your bottom three in the Prem and the top six could have easily gone into a league of the Championship. Does that make sense? Like break it off.
Much difference, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. But how are you first and foremost, mate? How's things with Ipswich? You're managing to keep hold of McKenna, keeping the bulky players.
It's weird. I mean, you'll have experienced this with Leeds, the churn after relegation, because you have the big advantage of the parachute payments, but there's then a lot of sorting out to do in that first summer. And as much as I'll give you my view on what Ipswich did, it's probably more pertinent what sort of Leicester and Southampton did, because they're kind of in the more, Leeds were up for a few seasons. Was it 3 seasons they were up?
Yes. Yeah.
So there'd been a little bit of a build, and obviously then they've bounced with parachute payments then. Ipswich has slightly different kind of outlook because they went back-to-back promotions. So essentially the job Ipswich had to do is kind of different than what Leeds are having to do. And hopefully from a Leeds fan's point of view, Leeds would come at it from, a far higher base in terms of what they've been paid on salary and, people who are sort of ready to go in that Premier League experience. But then you could have said the same thing about Southampton and Leicester and all three straight back down.
Yeah. I was talking to Locks about this, and I think Leicester got their recruitment so wrong. And then obviously the manager left just beforehand. Southampton had the unfortunate thing of Russell Martin sticking to his principles from game week
Joe,
1 and not
changing. Do you think
changing.
they would have had any more or any fewer points if they'd just ridden it out with him the whole time?
Maybe not, because that guy at the end, was it Jurich? He was no good either, was he?
Well, and he was like really direct. It was like, okay, fine, get rid of Russ Martin, but he's just spent 18 months building a squad to play hyper possession, and now you're kicking it down the pitch away from your goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, mate. I do. I guess the first question I want to ask, Ben, is what for you was the biggest mistake that Ipswich made in their Premier League season that led to relegation?
I mean, the real sarky answer, Joe, is the biggest mistake is they probably got promoted too soon, didn't they? But you get promoted when you get promoted. I mean, you already kind of mentioned it off, when we were just having a little chat before it kind of got to 8:00. But they really got the goalkeeper wrong, and what we kind of were discussing, particularly on the Blue Monday podcast, was, particularly for Ipswich with the back-to-back promotions, you're almost at the point now for a promoted team where like everything pretty much has to be 9 out of 10. Your recruitment, your home form, your set pieces, have to have a bit of luck with your injuries, have to have a bit of luck with the refereeing decisions and all of that. Everything has to kind of be 9 out of 10, and you've got a chance, I guess, then. And I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who say, well, Leeds aren't Ipswich, and no, that's true. And you and I spoke about the wage bill for Leeds the year they didn't go up, so they're far more prepped in terms of that size and scale of contract. But yeah, it's glaringly obvious the big, huge mistake. Ipswich went in on Aaron Muric, the goalkeeper, and then whilst you're juggling, trying to make sure everything else is working, you just need, and you know from last season what problems you can 100%. Get if you have issues with the keeper. It really upsets kind of the whole balance of everything, doesn't it? Yeah. And even the blooming stands and the atmosphere in the ground, and people, bless him,
getting nervous when the keeper gets close to it and stuff. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and people kind of turned on him pretty quickly, but I think as well, it's the wrong. I mean, you probably say the same for Ilan Meslier as well. Last year, I mean, there is no right situation for a goalkeeper to be playing badly, but you could say about Meslier, there's a lot of pressure on because it's high stakes, because Leeds are expected to challenge right up at the top, and because they generally were winning, and the only thing that seemed to be holding him back was him throwing one in every few games, wasn't it? But whereas Ipswich is kind of, pressure in a different way, that you're not having much of the ball, you're conceding lots of shots, you cannot carry a keeper, making errors.
Like at times we could, right, with Meslier, because he would get clean sheets, but he'd have no shots on his goal, So it's like he's not having to do much. And like you mentioned, I think you did see a steep upturn in terms of, I don't know about form, but when you brought the keeper in from West Brom, he was light years different, weren't he, from what Muric was doing?
I think all you want from a keeper often, we probably had this exact same conversation last year, you just want them to save the easy shots.
Save shots.
If someone bends one top corner, posting in, fine. You can't. You honestly, you can't. It's kind of a weird position, isn't it? It's like you could play really well in goal and concede 5. If your defence left you exposed and you didn't have any chance. We see all these stats with XG prevented, and you see the XG of the shot when it's in that position on the goal, and it's like the keeper saves 1 in 100 of them or whatever, and it's like, well, you're asking a lot. But that was a big problem. But and this is what we don't want to happen for Leeds in the Premier League, Joe. Problems compound. So if one thing goes wrong, the next thing goes wrong, the next thing goes wrong, and it's
it's like a deck of cards, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah. So that was probably the biggest one in terms of one of the real. Because if you look at it, I think Ipswich recruited quite well. I think Liam Delap was probably the best signing of any of the.
What a player, by the way, Ben. What a player.
Great player, and the agent did a very nice deal that worked for Liam, but we were happy to have him for a season and wish him all the best. Dara O'Shea's really good as well, Joe, and he signed a new contract. Unfortunately, the other area where they fouled up the recruitment was your good friend of mine, Calvin, and Jens Kajust in central midfield. And this is where it's probably a bit easier for Leeds than it is for Ipswich, because we got this really patronising, you need Premier League experience. You're just getting told this all the time. And you're like, right, we just done back-to-back promotions with no parachute payments. And you're now expecting Premier League experience, which costs $100,000 a week. Gosh, and the idea was that Calvin Phillips was the Premier League experience, but that just didn't work at all. And that then left the central midfield short. Yeah. So as much as I've just said the recruitment was good, in fact, when I think about it, it was either very good or very bad, central midfield bad. And you can't have that. You can't have a bad keeper. You certainly can't have a bad keeper and mess it up in central midfield either.
Yeah, you make a great point, Ben, and this is what I say, which should be like a plus point thus far anyway in the in the transfer window for Leeds in terms of the profiles of player that we've signed. There's not many that are under 6 foot. They're all good in both boxes, both defending and attacking. They're great in duels, so I do think we're going to see a much more physical Leeds United.
How many Premier League games did Longstaff play?
Yeah.
200 maybe?
Yeah, 170 odd, if I remember
Brilliant.
Right. Yeah,
that'll
exactly.
Shut up the go and get some Premier League experience, people, won't it? There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So and like we bought like Jacobiol, who in terms of touches in both penalty boxes is up there with the best in Europe. So it's clear Leeds United have earmarked certain profiles of players.
Joe, you're dead right about the physicality as well. They are bloody monsters, these teams now. And I think as well that was one thing Russell Martin said when what would he have done differently? I think he was on Sky and he said physicality. Like I would have brought in more players with better physicality. So mate, you see him do the lineup at the start of the game, and I remember it was Fulham were one of the first teams I saw, and you sort of looked and there was Smith Rowe, who was technically very, very good, and then this lad Bassi, who's just a bloody monster. And you're like, when you're playing Fulham, the players are either technically very, very good or physical, very, very good. Then you play Liverpool, and a few of them are both. Do you know what I mean? Salah is a physical machine. I know he's not massive, but he's bloody strong, and technically he's incredible. And I think
go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say we tried Ogbene basically from Luton, who the idea was he was just going to run down the right hand side and free up Leif Davis on the other. And he got injured. I mean, people will laugh if I say we were unlucky with the injuries, but the point being, everything has to be 9 out of 10. You cannot. You remember going up against us the season before? Yeah, George Hurst got hurt, didn't he? But we were pretty okay for injuries for the rest of it, and you can't carry 3 or 4 injuries. But maybe when you're chasing shadows against teams that are physically way better than you, your players get hurt. Maybe.
Exactly. When you mentioned Calvin Bassey there as well, I remember I can't remember which footballers were on about it, but they were asking a question about like who's the hardest or whatever to get the ball off, and they were all just like, Bassey, because I just think he's full set, and like you said, the Premier League's littered with them, to be honest. You need to recruit
all the squads, Joe, and this is the annoying thing for promoted teams, because Leeds fans will think that their club is bigger than. Well, I think they'd be right in saying is bigger than Brentford and Fulham and Bournemouth and Brighton, but you go and look at their bloody squads, and they've got international players right the way down. Physicality, yes. They're probably loaning out players that you'd take at a promoted team as well. So it's just that you mentioned how has it changed, and I think it's been really bad for the chasm that, like you said, when Forest, Bournemouth and Fulham went up, none of them came down, and then we just had yo-yos since, and the same 17 teams all getting 100 million quid TV money. And the parachute teams then get 55 and 45, but the rest of English football's getting 10 or 11, and they're building that up 3, and this is season 4 of that. You kind of like, okay, you're going to pay 17 teams 10x what you're going to pay, 69 or whatever the other 72, if my maths is right, and double what Leeds would have been getting. What's going to happen? Go figure,
100%. And Fulham's a great point, actually, because we want their second striker, Rodrigo Muniz, and they want 40 million for him. They want 40 million for him. Do you know what I mean? So it's like only 3 seasons ago, they'd come up, and like or 4 seasons ago, whenever it was, and now they have a second striker that's worth 40 million to them. So you're right, man. That's why you need to have a 2-3 season stability, don't you? And then you can really start to bulk out the squad and really make a mainstay of it. Follow-up question on it, and I probably know your answer to this, but could a mid-season managerial change potentially have saved Ipswich? I ask you this because ultimately, a run of 3 results within this fan base for Farke, there's a lot that still don't think he can cut the mustard. I really like him. I'm all in on him, and I can't wait for him to be a success. Really like him. But many don't, Ben, and many wanted him gone before even, until the club came out and said, no, he is our man. But first of all, could it have helped Ipswich? And I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you think Farke will do in the Prem as well.
No, that was never on the cards. It's very easy to, kind of point at, any team in, the bottom three is there because of their manager. And it's a bit of a reductive argument sometimes, because if you were to say to me, could McKenna have done something more to get Ipswich more points? Well, yeah. I don't know exactly what it was, but, perhaps he could have done something. Was he perfect? No. But we were also having conversations, Joe, of, hang on a minute, if we didn't have Liam Delap, would we have as many points as Southampton have now? And you looked as well, mate, at some of the... So we drew at Brighton and got a point. Got absolutely battered, like 25 shots. We won at Spurs. Again, it's a bit muggy. Beat Chelsea at Portman Road, just random, just both your shots go in and they have a really, really bad day. And what I'm saying is, like, you watched Leeds last year and I don't remember Leeds winning a fluky game. Generally, they had control of the game. Yeah. They were the better team. Everything was very viable. In fact, they probably lost more fluky games, didn't they? Where they're in control and the keeper throws one in or whatever like that. So no, that would have been a non-starter. And I always try and explain to...
And it didn't work for the other teams either, did it, Ben? Let's be honest. It didn't work for Southampton. Yeah. It didn't work for Leicester.
And you can always play the game of, well, we'll never know. They could have changed him. But no, I speak for myself. I'm not going to say we as Ipswich fans. I think he's an excellent manager who's probably learned a lot from last season. But the analogy I always use, Joe, if you like a game of cards, I could play you at poker and you can play your hand absolutely perfectly, mathematically, down to the decimal point. You could do exactly the right things, probability-wise, at every stage and lose. And I'm not saying McKenna, because probably the season before, in the battle, with you guys, he played his hand absolutely perfectly and, lightning in a bottle, got the promotion. He didn't play his hand perfectly, but I suspect had he really overperformed, I mean, what was the gap in the end? Still about another 15 points to make up, and Spurs and Man United having their worst seasons in 40 years, still being 20 points ahead, while Brentford, Bournemouth and Fulham swan around with their 35 international players. Do you know what I mean? I'm depressing aren't I?
Yeah, no. You bang on though, mate. You are right. Like you say, you can get everything right, but the difference is, you can make mistakes in the Championship and still get away with it. In the Premier League, there's no chance of it, because the players are just too good that you're coming up against.
I feel a bit badly in terms of the Farke thing, because it feels
like... Wait, what's your head on Farke? Because I think he's going to... The big difference is he's been backed. Norwich, he wasn't backed. He's already been backed to the tune of 60 million, and we still want players that could take it upwards of 100. So he's been backed. So there's no excuses there, and I think he'll get it right. But what's your opinion on that?
Well, I'm a huge fan, and like we just did a little clip on the channel where I was reacting to my bold predictions, so slightly silly predictions, and one of them was Daniel Farke will get 90 points for the 4th year in a row in the Championship, and you're like, yeah, okay, he had Norwich with parachute payments, he didn't the first time, and don't tell me Leeds is an easy job. You lot are mental, aren't you? The intensity of the fan base, that's a difficult job, even if you know your way through. And the numbers he's putting up don't strike me as the work of a bad manager. And I love you Leeds fans, but sometimes it's a little bit. It feels like the intensity. And if you noticed, he started saying it at the end of the season about this emotional club, and could we just calm down and help the players get over the line. And don't get me wrong, I've been in Ellen Road where the fans have got but I've also been in Ellen Road for that playoff semi-final against Derby, and I've never seen anything like it where the whole state... Yeah, that's right, Jonathan. I totally agree with that. Most emotional fan base in Western. And that can be a good thing, but it was like not just the players collapsed in that game. You know, to sit and watch it as a detached observer, an unemotional observer, I was like, what the hell is going on here? It's like everyone's agreed. The fans, and like the guy sitting next to me, he's like, oh, this is done then. And I'm like, what's going on? You haven't lost yet. And then just the whole thing folded together.
Yeah,
so I do agree with that. But, I mean, you tell me, Joe, what is the expectation for Daniel Farke? Or is it just to be above the line, stay in that league at any cost?
I'd take it now. But, yeah, that's all it is. That is genuinely all it is. And I think most Leeds fans would agree. There are some, and listen, I've gone just on some other shows going, we're going to get Conference League and all that sort of stuff. But if you could give me 17th now, Ben, I'd take it. Yeah, I'd take it. And I think the most level-headed Leeds fans would tell you that as well, regardless, because I always have to bat away comments of like, yeah, but it's Brentford, yeah, but it's Bournemouth, but it's no, they've been a Premier League club. You know, the fact that Bournemouth could sign someone like Evan Nilsson, you know, shows you that Premier League pull is just beyond any clubs in Europe. You could, you know, you can beat players like teams like AC Milan to signings because you're in the Premier League. So, yeah, I just think it is, like you say, it's tough now. So I think most would say, give me 17th. I'd take 17th too, 3 seasons on trot, and then start to, you know, move up the table. I genuinely would.
But this is the thing, Joe, about the fan base getting emotional. 17th is one place above 18th, which means if you're in 18th, you cannot panic about not being in 17th. So if you're... We all kind of said as Ipswich fans, you know, can you get into, say, the last 5 games or something, and if you were to have a couple of wins or something in the last 5 games, you had a chance of staying up. That was all we wanted. I mean, it strikes me that you have to kind of track it and just get up ahead of, you know, 1 point per game. The worry I've got is that one of the promoted teams, if they are tracking towards 35 or 38 points, that, you know, the teams that are really stinking the joint out then turn it. Like, for example, Wolves last year, mate, were utterly dreadful. They were useless for, you know, up until now. And Ipswich won there, actually, as one of the few victories. And then Gary O'Neill got sacked. And we're like, right, there's a chance here. Because Wolves that look like they're chaotic and they're going to throw it in and maybe they'll score under 30 points. And then they changed the manager and they had Cunha, obviously. Yeah, and we played them in, I don't know, spring. And they had these 2 Brazilian lads in central midfield who it turns out are Brazil's first choice midfield pair. And they absolutely just ripped us a new one. I think we took the lead in that game, possibly as well. It's one of those games, though, where you're like, yeah, the door is being knocked down. And if they stick 1 goal in, this is completely flipping. And you almost start to say, Joe, is the question less what the Leeds need to do to survive, but more, what would it actually take for one of the 17 to cock it up? But talk to me about Brentford, because they've changed the manager.
This is the thing. I was gonna touch on that a little bit later on, but yeah, I there are some questions I've got for you with regards to that. But me and you will both know Keith Andrews very well from his time covering the Championship. Leeds fans have a very big disdain for the man because it felt like he never gave us a fair shake. He was always critical of the Leeds side, regardless of who was manager. I really dislike him. I don't think he's been successful at MK Dons or at Sheffield United in a coaching perspective. The fact that he's been promoted from free kick coach to now main guy.
He must do a killer interview.
I know, right? And then to lose
I mean, he's a great talker, to be fair. When you have, I mean, he's got the gift of gab, hasn't he?
Norgard and Newcastle also want Visser, and they may be cash very healthy soon if Isak goes to Liverpool. So
then Hutchinson, Joe, you mentioned he'll go from Ipswich to Brentford, obviously.
Yeah, Brentford. Which again, I really like Amari Hutchinson, and I've said on this show that I would take him, but I don't know if that's going to bridge the gap of an Mbeumo or a Visser, for example, but. They are one of my picks because I actually believe, Ben, before a ball's kick, us and Sunderland will stay up. I think Burnley go down just because they won't score enough, and defensively, I don't think they'll be the same after losing the other centre back and the goalkeeper might be on his way to City.
He was immense, wasn't he, Trafford?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, unreal. So City or Newcastle take him, and just Parker. I'm not sure. And so I think Burnley go down, and then I throw in Brentford and Wolves in there. To be honest, that's where I'm at, and I think both us and Sunderland stay up. I don't know what your take is on that. Have you got any thoughts on Keith Andrews? Though it's madness.
I mean, I listened to the someone in the comments will tell me his name. Is it Giles, the sporting director at Brentford? They're very clever at Brentford, aren't they? Yeah, they obviously made the hire and. So the sporting director comes out and does an interview, and his argument, Joe, and you can decide whether you're buying this or not, is that they wanted him on the staff, and the only opening they could do was on the set plays. Okay. But there was always a structure to get him. I mean, you wouldn't imagine he would have gone. You would have thought he would have gone set play coach, first team coach, manager, rather than set play guy. But they did argue that they wanted him, kind of, to be on some kind of, there's probably some corporate speak for your career progression path or whatever. Listen, it could have been Kieran McKenna, so I'm all for Keith Andrews.
Happy days, right?
But, Joe, you get this with clubs that overperform, so to speak. And that said, with absolute love to Brentford, they've been incredible, where there's often a time... Do you know, I thought it would be when Ivan Toney went. There's often a time where the bottom falls out. And as you said, the captain's gone. The talisman was Toney and they survived that. The manager and Frank was charismatic and he knew what he was.
He's so good, so good. Like I disliked for him when we were competing in the championship, but ever since then, and I'm so impressed by him. I think he's a great manager.
But you want those housery managers, don't you? Do you know what I mean? You want him to be a little bit of a S-house, don't you? And he was. I always remember him in the playoffs walking up and like 10 minutes into the game, and he's pointing at his watch saying Bournemouth are wasting time because they'd had a red card or whatever. And he literally had the whole stadium on strings marching to his beat, and they go on and win it, and they go on and get promoted. So something about him. And when you lose a manager who's been there quite that length of time, the worry is, Joe, that the chasm is as big as we think it might be. And if I've sat here and said, right, Everton, crap, for large parts of last year. Man United, awful, dire, dreadful, the worst they've been in decades. Spurs, exactly the same, pathetic. Wolves, dreadful up until Christmas. And you're like, they all still... survived, and that's the worry that Brentford could really be say they drop off, Joe, by 30%. That I mean you could do points numbers on it, probably still surviving, aren't they?
I don't.
Do you know what I'm saying? They could crap the bed, and it could still be too difficult for like Jamie's saying in the chat there, that it could still be too difficult for Leeds and Sunderland and Burnley to scoot past them. I hope I'm wrong, because that really makes English football just boring. And you may as well do your Super League then, because what's the point of the teams going up if they've you're doubling and 10x in the money over? Because then that'd be 5 years if they all go down again. It's like, what's the point? Come on.
Yeah. It starts to look a bit naff, doesn't it? But my hope is Man United and Spurs improve immensely. Although having seen Man United in maybe they won't, but Spurs improve immensely. Spurs get their points from those down the bottom end of the table that they previously lost.
Okay, right, yeah.
So therefore the gap reduces. I'm on the countdown from 10 wins. So I think 10 wins obviously gets us 30 points. We pick up points here and there, surprise points. That'll see us get 36, 37, 38, which could see us stay up. So my thing is countdown from 10 wins.
That's a really good point, Joe, is that's crazy. Forest, 19 wins. Brighton, 16. Bournemouth, 15. Brentford, 16. Fulham, 15. Palace, 13. And it kind of then drops to 11s and 12s. And then the bottom three, 6, 4, and 2. So you are correct that a properly functioning Manchester United or Tottenham that doesn't just lose to all the middle order.
Exactly,
so they're winning 13 games instead of 15. But that's a good point about the distribution of points. You also had Liverpool basically just beat everybody. So, you know, whether anyone can nick points off the actual teams that... I mean, you don't expect promoted teams to do anything again. I mean, ridiculously, Ipswich got 4 points off Chelsea, who finished 4th. And lost at home to Southampton, who won 2 games all.
That's the thing as well.
You've got season.
We've like you said, it's all good getting a result against Arsenal, but if we don't beat Burnley, Sunderland, say West Ham, Wolves, it means nothing. So we need to ensure. Like one thing, Bielsa was amazing at. He never lost against a team in the bottom 5. That's
5?
what. Yeah, in the bottom 5. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that's why it was crazy. They sacked him because after Arsenal, Spurs and Liverpool, we had loads of easy fixtures and they won them games, you know? So, and we brought in Jesse. But listen, I need to get over that. It's done now. But I think that's why I think the Everton game, we kick off against Everton at Elland Road. We've got to win that because it's followed by Arsenal and Newcastle. And I don't want to be 3 games in with no points on the board.
You've got to be tracking above that 1 point per game. Yeah. So it's so important to try and win one of the first 3. And there's a brilliant Sky Monday Night Football thing with Thomas Frank. And he says it quite simplistically. He said, we had to be really good on set plays. We had to be really good at home. And we had to be really fit. Just upgrading all of those. Real life, this is nothing to do with... You know, Daniel Farke, a nice pattern of play and fullbacks forward and folding the wingers in and, you know, rotation in midfield. It's, you know, can you be bastards at Elland Road and, you know, get up teams and, you know, put them under pressure?
And again, that's where I look to recruitment. If that's where, like, these players that we've signed, they're all over 6 foot, 6'4". Majority. It's almost like Leeds are aware, you know, set pieces is something they've targeted. We brought in a new keeper. You know, it's clear that they're looking to, you know, to do that. We've been playing with a 3 in midfield as well, 4-3-3. So that sees us come away from that 4-2-3-1 that we've been so used to. And Farke basically has almost said, like, I didn't really need to be as flexible last season because we had better players. We were the better side. So our style 9 times out of 10 was going to win. It was going to win out. I think in the Premier League we will see tactical flexibility from the manager. If we don't, we'll get crucified. But I do think we will. I do want to ask you as well, Ben. So previous season, you had players like Leif Davis and co having amazing seasons. Leif Davis having, you know, that record assists, etc. Maybe didn't do as well in the Premier League. It's a massive step up. Is there a worry that you do over-rely on players like that from a Leeds perspective? And I guess to get your take, do you think Rodon, Ampadu, Tanaka, can even players like Ramazani, Nonto, who's done it before, but can they translate? There's a lot of talk at the minute of James, for example. We just give him a new 4-year deal. He massively improved under Farke, but you have to come with that caveat of it was in the Championship. He'd had 3 or 4, 5 seasons in the Prem, and he'd not done as well. At Leeds, he did play in the 9 under Bielsa. He always struggled, but he did go to Fulham. He spent time at Man United before that. So I guess it's just, what do you think of those Championship players making that jump? Is it something they can do? And of the Leeds team, who within there you're like, yeah, I saw enough from him to think he can do all right?
Well, I think you're probably getting towards the idea that the Leeds team's probably a bit more balanced than the Ipswich team that went up. I think most people would probably agree with that. And Farke said it himself, that Ipswich played in a unique way and it was lopsided, and all of a sudden Leif Davis would be like the chief attacking guy and he was the left back. So it's always a bit of a worry if you've got one player who's, teams have a talisman. Arsenal under Wenger, if you took Henry out, would not have been anywhere near as good as, but it's levels, isn't it? But in terms of the Leeds team, no, do you know what? I genuinely think, and this is probably testament to the job that Farke did, really, he didn't fancy Piru, so he did it with a number. I know Piru got 19 goals, but if Farke had had Bamford fit all season, he would have played him at number 9 every time, wouldn't he? I think that's fairly obvious. So he did it kind of without a number 9, didn't he? And
a conventional number 9, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think he wanted to do Gruev, didn't he, in midfield, and then they kind of moved on from that. And I think you're probably right that Tanaka was able to do what he did in the Championship because the centre-backs were on halfway for most of the game. And I don't know, it feels a little bit like cultural appropriation that people say this about Asian players and physicality, don't they? But people are saying that about Tanaka. Not that Son for Spurs ever had any issue with physicality in the Premier League, but you do. And it's nice to hear you saying about like a 3-man midfield, so you don't just have teams just blitzing right through the middle of you. But no, Rodon will be fine.
I think so.
But I take your point that his heat map will look very different than it. He's not going to be standing on halfway.
No, he won't.
Kind of directing traffic, is he? And
did you see the Bamford stuff, by the way?
No, go on.
Farker's told him, stay at home, you're not part of my plans.
I'm aware because obviously the next thing was in the Ipswich WhatsApp group, would you take Bamford? Take Bamford for a season. You know what's coming. And you can never have a sensible bloody conversation about Bamford, can you? Bamford derangement syndrome is going to kick in. Half the people are going to love him, half the people are going to hate him. I like the idea that they've bought centre-backs to move Ampadu into central midfield, because that's not just a good physical player, but that's a leadership player who you want right slap bang in the middle of the pitch. What's happened with Solomon? Are they going to be able to get him again?
No, so I think he wants to fight for his place at Spurs. Thomas Frank wanted to take a look at him. We're actually linked to a fella by the name of Igor Pakjau, who is currently at Feyenoord. He's wanted by Marseille. They can't seem to stump up the cash. So yeah, a very, very good player. We're talking Rafinha Mark II here, Benjamin Bloom. Honestly, we are.
You'll be lucky. That's what every promoted team wants to do. You want to sign a Rafinha, don't you? That's the deal.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Joe, that was season 2 that they signed Rafinha, wasn't it?
No, season 1.
Oh, it was in the first season. Okay, I stand corrected. Yeah. Okay, fair play.
So we're going to be like Brazil's second squad, because we got the Brazil keeper. We want Pacquiao. We want Muniz. So, Brazil Mark II. But I think they are using Rafinha as a key selling point. It's something that's been said in the local press. Yeah, come to Leeds and you can play for Barcelona seems to be the narrative.
Be really good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But someone like that, we do need an X factor. In the forward areas, we've saved the majority of our money for that. So,
but Joe, everything's got to be on point, because Ipswich literally signed the X factor. They got the deal right to get Liam Delap, but then if the other stuff isn't working, it does. And I'm like sat there watching, going, just kick it in the channel and let Delap run, get it away from the goal and let Delap run after
so
it. You've
good,
still got to have everything on point, but. So what are your thoughts then on, say, Nonto, Ramazzani, Aronson? Are they going to kind of be bombed out or just surreptitiously moved on?
I think Nonto stays. There was noise in the press today that Ramazani's been approached by a few clubs for a loan. One of them being I forget even the name, but a team in Greece. He said no to that, but I don't know how. Maybe you'll know better than me, but I don't know how a loan works. But the fact that he's had to say no to that tells me the club are open to him leaving on loan. So I'm not sure the fan base really rate him, some insanely so. I'm not sure the manager rates him as highly as the fans do, because obviously he lost his place to Solomon, which people disagreed with at the time, even though Solomon was quality. So I do think Ramazani will stay, but there's question marks there. Nonto, he's done it before in the Prem. He's having a really good season, so we'll see. But it's clear we want a left winger. I think the manager's
Nonto, Joe, is probably one of those players who's, as well, this will sound stupid, he's probably of more value to him in the Premier League than he is in the
exactly.
You know, he's not interested in going to Preston, is he? But he'll be ready for Chelsea, won't he?
Yeah, I did watch a podcast as well. Do you remember Matty Jarvis?
I worked with him at EFL. Yeah.
All right, okay. So Matty Jarvis was on, and he said the difference between Championship and Premier. He said in the Championship, you're better than your opposition, but you get less time on the ball. But in the Premier League, there's more space for you to operate in, and therefore you can make decisions where you're going to go. You're coming up against better players, so it's not as easy to do. And I think that's where it falls into the bracket for someone like Nonto. He even said in an interview, we come up against low blocks. Whereas if Leeds playing transition, he's going to have space, and when he's got the ball at his feet and space to dribble into, he can cause problems. So I think I agree with him. Ramazani the same as well. I was quite surprised that he's turned down a loan away, because I was like, well, I thought you'd be staying anyway. So that's surprised me a bit. So we'll have to wait and see.
The only issue, Joe, I mean, Matt Jarvis is totally right, and you're right to allude to that. The only problem is that, there's more space for left wingers, but the average Premier League fullback would be the best winger in the Championship, wouldn't they? You just play him on the wing, and they'd just make bank, wouldn't they, every week?
Yeah. That's the problem, in it. So even like you talk about Liverpool, the Frimpong and Kirkes on either right back and left back. It's it's not easy. That's for sure. But we'll have to wait and see. Do you give us any hope?
Yeah, I do, but it's taken me a while to get my head around the fact, and I had to see my team get promoted to do it, that the fact that Leeds are a big club and have got loads of fans and had an amazing period under Don Revie 30 years ago or 40 years ago, whatever it is, and won the league with Howard Wilkinson, it's all irrelevant. And that always used to mean something, didn't it? That, right, you're a big club, so the fan base and the commercials will mean something. Doesn't matter. It's all about who's had the TV money most recently, isn't it? And unfortunately, for the 2 years Leeds have been, down, that Brentford and Fulham and Brighton and Bournemouth and Wolves and Everton have all made double the amount of money. And, it's the consistent drip, drip, drip every year where you're down to like your 18th player and he's 25 million and, getting paid 4 or 5 million quid a year. So the worry is that what really would have worked for Leeds before, the whole big club, the whole Leeds belong in the Premier League thing, doesn't matter anymore, does it? And, if you get it wrong, Palace will bowl up to Elland Road. I remember we played Palace and they were rubbish as well at the start of the season and went on to win the FA Cup.
Crazy, weren't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and we played them on one of those Amazon games in like the winter. And I always remember it, Joe, because I had to build a bookshelf with my missus and I had it on the iPad. And I was kind of watching it while I was building this bookshelf. It's like, it wasn't an IKEA thing, but there's one really awkward bit where you had to kind of lean it up and you had to cooperate with your missus as well, which is always fun when you're building furniture. And I'm watching and I'm like, right, we've got a chance now. We're going to beat Palace at home. We're going to make it really ugly for them. And they had like Gahey and Eze and Mateta, and they just went, nah, you're not beating. No, this is, and they were quite comfortable. So all those things before, and even the Bielsa coming up and finishing 9th, it does feel like things have moved on and changed even since.
Well, Sheffield United did it the season before.
They did,
that team was bad, wasn't it? Really, on paper, it wasn't
just had
great.
A great pattern of play and loads of momentum, and I don't want to get in trouble comparing Chris Wilder to Marcelo Bielsa, but you would say Leeds came up with a brilliant pattern of play and a kind of cult genius manager, and all of a sudden Stuart Dallas and Luke Ayling are tearing it up in the Premier League because of the manager and the pattern of play. And Farke, I was going to say this when we were talking about Farke, actually, Joe. Do you worry at all? And I'm very pro Farke, but the housery and the winning Farke, I've never seen him win ugly. Always wins playing nice football, and in a housery battle, he tends to lose gloriously, doesn't he? I know you're talking to me about physicality in a 4-3-3. Are you worried that if you do have to just ugly win a home game or something, that no, he's going to want to win it too pretty? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I guess there's going to be so many questions. I just hope that. I think for me, it'll be down to the players on the pitch, really. In them sort of moments, do you know what I mean? In them moments where you talk about needing shithousery and stuff. But yeah, there are massive question marks over the manager. I understand that. I just really believe we can do it. But I'm a positive Leeds fan, always have been. So I'd find it hard to write us off before any game. That's the problem with me. We'll go into Arsenal away on. Now I'm under no illusions we're going to get walloped, but the week before the game when I'm doing my preview, I'll go, now we can get something out of this. We just need to stop Saka, Gyökeres, Odegaard, Rice, Zubimendi. If we can stop all them 5, we'll be all right. You know,
mate, we played them in it was like Easter time. They murdered us. Yeah. They were so good against us. But no, it's the only thing I don't want for the Leeds fans is it does wear you down, and you don't play too many games. There's often months where you play 3 times or 4 times tops, and if those 4 games are Arsenal, Newcastle, Fulham or whatever, and 2 of them are away, you're like, okay, that's the month of February, 0 points or whatever, and it starts to, I talked about negative things compounding. It does start to when are we? And it did just last year particularly, and I hope it's different next year, for not just for the sake of Burnley, Sunderland and Leeds, but for the sake of English football. Just so hard to win a game. And I do think a few of Ipswich's wins, and they only got 4, you're almost like, oh, they got Spurs at just the right time, didn't they? Bit jammy against Chelsea, weren't they? I can't even remember the other wins. Wolves away. That's 3 of them. I can't remember the last one, but do you know what I mean? When Leeds probably, I don't know how did Leeds win 4 or 5 on the trot to finish? They probably won more games in the last 5 weeks of last season than Ipswich did all last season.
It's
hard then when you can't win for 2 months.
Definitely, it's massively sobering to come to that realization. And look, for me doing content, it was tough last season, and we fucking won the league with 100 points just due to some of the nervousness within the fan base. So next season, if it goes anything like,
I tell you this every time, don't I, Joe? You're gonna be... Can I just challenge you on Sunderland? Well, not challenge you.
Yes.
Why are you so confident?
I think they're recruiting really well. I think again, the Stadium of Light is not an easy place to go for teams. I think they're going to give it a real go. I like the 2 midfield signings that they've got so far. Xhaka apparently wants to go there as well, which would be a massive win for them. So I think the midfield is pretty strong. We'll have to wait and see what they do defensively. That's where the problems are. Ballard and Luke O'Nien cannot start centre-back in the Premier League, for me anyway. fullbacks, I don't mind. They've just brought in Ronaldo as well from Atletico Madrid to play at left back. So I think they're recruiting really well.
I like Sirkin. I thought he was good. The one thing I will say as well, Joe, about Sunderland, regardless of the recruitment, in the playoffs they sat behind the ball and defended in the semi-final. And if you've got that game plan, which maybe Leeds don't, when was the last time you saw Leeds sit narrow, compact, defend, and try and nick a game? And I saw Sunderland do that a few times as well. So maybe they've got that side. I said about Sunderland, Joe, I don't know if you agree with me, that I kind of wanted them to just keep doing what they had been doing, exotic signings out of nowhere that no one had ever heard of, but just for 5, 10, 15 million now, as opposed, or rather 10, 15, 20 million. And it does feel like they've done that. It's going to be feast or famine there, though, isn't it, surely?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the Tyne and Weir derby. That should be a lot of fun. Newcastle, Sunderland, I think that belongs in the Premier League. But yeah, look, if they crash and burn, I'll be happy because it's one less spot for us. But the mad thing is, I'd rather someone like a Bristol City come up than Sunderland, just because.
And got 15 points.
Yes, you know what I mean. I'd have preferred that, but yeah, I think Sunderland will have a real good go at it.
When are the games, Joe? Have you looked them up? You were right to point out that. And this is the annoying thing about when the promoted teams play each other. The unfortunate thing is, as a rule, when two bad teams come up against each other, they draw, don't they? They can't win. Neither of them can win the game, and you just can't have that. Sunderland have to beat Leeds. Leeds have to beat Sunderland. Leeds have to beat Burnley. Burnley have to beat Leeds, don't they?
What else I'm hoping for as well, and you are right, we have to win them games, that mini league in and around us. But another thing that I'm quite positive about, Ben, and I don't know what your take is on this. This season sees the most teams in Premier League history to be operating in Europe.
Great
so we've
point.
got Palace in there. We've got Forest in there. We saw what happened to Newcastle the season they were in the Champions League. Their league form was terrible the season after. So I'm hoping for a similar type of impact at Palace, at Forest, so that as soon as them European fixtures come out, I'm looking straight at our fixtures and say, right, do we get Forest on a Sunday after they've played in bloody,
at
Greece?
At midday. You know what I mean? That's when you want them, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think all eyes will be on that as well, because that'll help Leeds, I think.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I remember when Ipswich finished 5th in the Premier League randomly in the year 2000, and they got into Europe, and I mean, it was fun. I went and saw Ipswich playing the San Siro, and Christian Vieri scored a hat-trick for Inter Milan, and we had 10,000 Ipswich fans in there. I think you've got better memories of San Siro if you talk to Don Matteo about it. But that'll if you've got the squad kind of depth that we're talking about, if you're out on a plane every midweek and prepping that's hard for a.
I don't know about you, what I think we're seeing as well, because the season went so bad last season for the big boys, i.e. the top 6, we're seeing them nick a lot of the players from the other clubs. Do you know what I mean? Morgan Gibbs-White, one of Forest's best players, Spurs. I know it's not official yet, but easily he'll leave. You see in Bournemouth, Bournemouth have lost the centre-back, Huijsen, to Real Madrid. They've lost someone else as well, and I can't.
The fullback, Kirkes, did he go?
Kirkes to Liverpool.
Yeah,
we're seeing this throughout the division as well. Eze could be on his way to Arsenal. So then it's like, do they then replace them with sufficient players? Like we know, Brentford have been robbed of a lot of talent as well. I mean, none of us expected Norgard to go, the captain, and he's gone. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, well.
But here's the difficult thing, Joe, is that you probably have not heard of Charalampos Kostoulas, who has just signed for Brighton, and he's 18 years old. And
is this the striker?
35 million euros, it says on Transfermarkt. And then you have what I call the Keane Lewis Potter paradigm, whereby Brentford are in a position where they can take a player from the EFL who's good, stick them in their squad. Oh, you can do some training. Right, in round 4, you're going to do 20 minutes. and we'll see how you go. Then we're going to give you 2 games off, and then in the home game, you can come on in minute 60. Whereas, and you know, they spend 20, 25 million on that player. Whereas if Leeds, the lad they've signed in midfield, Stack, it's like, mate, you're starting every game. If you're fit for all 38, you're starting all of them. And like these clubs, even though you're right that João Pedro will go out from Brighton to Chelsea, they've got the capacity to not have to gamble on players this season, and they're able to develop them so slowly. So even though you're totally right to say and you know, we say the same about Mbomo going and Cunha both going to Man United, but even the middling clubs can develop players over. And think about the lad Scott, who was at Bristol City, who's at Bournemouth, I'm sure, in a couple of years, and how good Semenyo is now at Bournemouth as well. And we saw him for Bristol City in the Championship, and it's 2-3 years work, and they've got the time. Whereas the Leeds players who sign, they've got to be good in 6 weeks, mate.
They've got to. You're right. And like Jamie makes a point, what you're saying is they can be given time to get things wrong. And Leeds United's signings have to be right, and they have to work. Like, if we get Muniz, he has to score the goals that keep us up. If he gets injured, then we're relying on Pirro. I hope Pirro has a good season, but Premier League 9 is a very difficult job for him, so I'd prefer him off the bench. But we'll see.
Joe, it's that whole 9 out of 10, everything. Your injuries, 9 out of 10. Don't get, signings, recruitment, 9 out of 10. Home form, 9 out of 10. Everything's like that. Then it can start to work, can't it? Yeah. But this is what we were finding last year. One thing drops and it's a struggle.
I'm still confident, mate. I'm still confident. Give me, before we finish up, give me I know you don't tend to like to make predictions, Ben, but will Leeds United stay up? Yes or no?
I hope so. And honestly, Joe, with my, I mates with you and lots of Leeds subscribers. So if one of the 3, it'd be nice if it was Leeds, because I seem to have made lots of friends. But all I will say, swerving the question like a politician, one of them has to stay up this season. This is just terrible for English football if Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland all get relegated. So, and I think there's a lot of people like me, and it's not like bitterness because Ipswich went down last season. I could care less. This is about, there being a competitive passing in between, that if you score, not just you get promoted, if you score 100 points, you should be able to, have a crack at the Premier League and have a chance of finishing halfway up, shouldn't you?
Yeah, you would hope so, mate. You would hope so. And, for what it's worth, Ipswich are my early pick for the Championship to come straight back.
It's weird, isn't it? You found this in the takeover summer. It's weird when you say you have the parachute payments, but then you're going to have to sell 2 or 3, and you basically have to do a new team, and that really scuppered you guys, didn't it? And I'm sure you've been keeping your eyes on Birmingham, building the Harlem Globetrotters of Championship players.
Wrexham have signed some good players as well. They signed Lewis O'Brien today, didn't they? That's a good signing. I like him.
Yeah. So the Championship could squidge right up then, because contrary to what we're saying about the Premier League, Charlton have spent like €6 million as well. I know they'll get nothing like the attention that Birmingham and Wrexham will, but it's almost like 2 of the League One teams are just going to go straight into the top half.
And the thing is as well, Nathan Jones, although he's a good manager.
Of course he is.
Yeah,
of course he is. He's got the best running stats in the known universe, according to him.
Yeah, he is good at what he does. So I think that, to be honest, I want Leicester to get massive points deduction and relegated to League One. That's my hope.
They might not get a massive one, but they might get a fairly big one and then a little one in January if what you read is true.
Yeah. But I think they're up shit creek without a paddle. But I think you recruited so well that your team that kicks off game week 1 will be even when the transfer window shuts, you will have a strong enough team.
You realise our first game is Birmingham away, yeah?
That's a big one.
That's nasty. But yeah, all I need to say for Ipswich is they just haven't won any games for 6 months. So they just need to win some games in August.
It'll be nice for you to experience that again, won't it, Ben?
I just hope it bloody happens.
It will, I'm sure. Ben, do you want to tell the folks what's coming up on your channel over the next few weeks? You'll have plenty videos, I'd imagine. I do think the championship this season is going to be exciting to watch, like in terms of the race for promotion.
Oh, it's always crazy, isn't it? And if what we've just said is correct, hopefully for the punters, I mean, I'd love it if it was like it was the last couple of years, because then Ipswich are going to be right up the top. But it could be a bit more squidged down. And, we've had 4 teams. I mean, you've been one of the 4 teams for both of the last seasons, running away with it and scoring 90s and 100 points. But no, I'm probably the same as you, Joe. You just, as a YouTube content creator, you just like, what the hell am I going to talk about today? What am I going to talk about tomorrow? Just trying to get through the close season. But we get to the point where Joe, you can do those 1 to 24 predictions, and then once the season starts, we can actually talk about some football. And what did you call it? The incessant transfer cycle or whatever.
Yeah, it's tough. Folks, Benjamin Bloom's channel is in the title. So if you just click it, you'll go straight on over. The lovely Oliver as well as also put it in the chat for those that can't find
Oliver, thank you.
The title. So please do go on over and show your love for Ben. I'll be back tomorrow with some more transfer news, no doubt. Lucas Perry, though, was pictured. Yeah, he was pictured getting on a flight from Lyon. So
Leeds fans are so mental, aren't they? I've never known a club track flights more than Leeds fans.
It's mad. There's a content creator called Joe Blackburn who literally does a live stream of him tracking the flight. So
that's tremendous, isn't it?
I know, right? But yeah, a lot of love as well. Great chat. The Ginola of social media. Is that what we're calling Ben? Is that what we're saying?
Mate, I'll take that, Ginola.
Yeah.
He was. I mean,
I always remember when he took his shirt off at John Gregory.
He was ripped, wasn't he? Yeah, I'm not taking my shirt off, and I don't look like that. And we're talking about Premier League clubs 10x in Championship clubs. Ginola 10x is all of us on handsomeness, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Definitely, he definitely does. Right, folks, smash me a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Ben's channel, get your comments in, hit the notification bell, and I'll probably see you tomorrow. We do have a super chat, actually. William Morrison says, good evening, boys. Getting to catch you live. Ecstatic about Perez. So am I. That should be announced tomorrow, and I'll be live when it does. Enjoy the rest of your evening, folks, and we'll see you later.